Paulsboro High School in Paulsboro, New Jersey. The GCEN presents South Jersey High School football. Today, it's the Paulsboro Red Raiders hosting the Pennsgrove Red Devils. Hello again, everyone. Rob Christ along with my partner Fred Schwartz. A cold, windy, sunny afternoon here in Paulsboro. Kind of perfect football weather for two teams that like to get after it. First round of South Jersey Group 1. Of course, loser goes home, and a lot on the line. Let's first talk about the visiting Pennsgrove Red Devils. This is a team that likes to win it in the trenches. They're going to need to do that today in order to be successful.
Sure, Rob. Talking to John Emmel before the game, he said he really likes the matchup between their defensive line and the front line of Paulsboro. Thinks that's where the game will be won, and they're going to be very, very physically oriented. So that sounds pretty exciting.
Of course, we had an opportunity to watch Paulsboro a couple weeks ago as they pasted Woodbury. This is a team that has a history of tremendous weapons on offense. This year, no different. Pennsgrove's got a lot to stop today.
They certainly do. Kind of almost like a mystique here at Paulsboro. It's all about winning. They had a 63-game winning streak back in the 1990s. They always do the things that's necessary to win. They may have the two best athletes on the field.
Pennsgrove, of course, also boasts a tremendous tradition. They have been state champions. This year, they have a special player in Kymir Brown who's being recruited by Temple University.
Yeah, he's going to go there as a cornerback. Probably the most interesting thing is he's a winner. Last year at the state track championships, Pennsgrove had to get first place in the long jump to win the state title. Kymir Brown was the state champion.
When you watch this Paulsboro offense, we mentioned how many different weapons they had. Keep an eye on number 1, Deron Holloway. This kid is something special. Not only is he small, but he is strong and tough, and he runs with the heart of a lion.
Yeah, very interesting. The Paulsboro people said to me a couple of years ago, they said, wait till you see, we have the next Kevin Harvey coming up in Paulsboro. His name's Deron Holloway, and I think he's going to really show today what he has and what he can do for Paulsboro.
There's no doubt that he's going to be fun to watch today. I think the key could be Pennsgrove is going to need to score early. This is going to be a game that will be well attended by the Paulsboro faithful. They want to take the crowd out of it. We'll have it for you in just a moment. Welcome back to Paulsboro High School, about to get underway. South Jersey Group 1 opening round. Pennsgrove has won the toss and elected to defer. Paulsboro will receive the football. 50 degrees, very blustery. The wind's whipping around, and the wind spread will certainly be a factor today.
Absolutely, especially with the kicking game. You know, Rob, we're going to find out real quick because in playoff games, special teams dictate a lot of the action. We're going to find out real fast who's ready to play.
Simon and Childress back to receive the kick for Paulsboro. Tony Verdecchio will be kicking it away for the Red Devils. Pennsgrove in the visiting white, trimmed in scarlet. Paulsboro in their traditional all-red uniforms, waiting to receive the kick. Their first step towards another South Jersey Group 1 championship. Today it's the Pennsgrove Red Devils who are in their way. Kick it away, it's off the side of the foot. It'll find its way towards the sideline, and it is taken and received by Pennsgrove. I don't think that was purposely done, but great hustle on Pennsgrove. They come away with essentially an onside kick.
And what a change now in the landscape out on this field. Pennsgrove really wanted to go out and play defense first. Now they get the football, and they get it in Paulsboro field area. So let's see what happens with Pennsgrove's offense.
The ball came off the side of the foot of Verdecchio, and they got a fortuitous spin on it. It seemed like it was destined for the 30-yard marker out of bounds. It stayed in bounds, and Pennsgrove will start 1st and 10 deep in Paulsboro territory inside the 30. Jason James, your quarterback. Full house backfield. James will hand it off, and absolutely nothing there.
Many times in this game, Rob, it's going to be decided on the offensive line and the defensive line. Paulsboro showed blitz in that situation and guessed right.
Looked like Teak Jones, your ball carrier. Again, we mentioned that the wind, a factor. These two teams traditionally like to keep the ball on the ground, but we mentioned in the open, Kamir Brown, a very talented receiver. We'll keep an eye on him. He is lined up wide right. Second and 10. End around, and not a whole lot there for Craig Ransom.
John Emmel said before the game that they really wanted to run the football and establish dominance of the line of scrimmage. That's what they're trying so far. They went inside, then outside, and no gain on either play.
Well, both of these teams boast an athletic squad, and we see that already with Paulsboro's defense. Tyreek King leading the tackles for Paulsboro, 92 on the season. It's James who will work out of the shotgun. In motion, it's Tyreek Brown. Quick drop. The lefty throws and misses his intended receiver across the middle. That'll be a 3 and out here, but being so deep in Paulsboro territory, probably going to go for it on 4th down.
Yeah, one of the strengths of Pennsgrove is not the kicking game, so I think they'll take a shot here. The very worst that can happen is the ball's going to be placed right around the 30-yard line.
4th down and 9.
Next Friday, November 20th. 7 p.m. at Pennsgrove. Pennsgrove won last night. They will host the South Jersey semifinal.
Pensgrove now has opted to try to kick the field goal here. And this will be about a 43-yarder. For Decchio on to attempt the field goal. His kick is up, he slips, and it falls short. So the footing playing a role in the attempted field goal.
Is no good.
Kind of an interesting situation in that one, because if you miss it, it's coming back out to where the line of scrimmage is. So there isn't really a lot to gain. I guess you can hope to get 3 points out of the matter, but it's still 0-0.
There you see head coach Glenn Howard. He has been a stalwart here at Paulsboro for such a long time. 7-1 this year, and again, very familiar with South Jersey Group 1 football. This is a team that will be on the road should they win this week. They will go to Pennsville, and there's Deron Holloway. We mentioned him in the open, just how talented he is, and there it is on display.
And we got to see his quickness. He creates his own openings. They try to get him outside. If they get him one-on-one on any defender, they have to feel it's in Paulsboro's advantage. You can see the number of yards he's gained this year, the number of touchdowns he's scored. He's a threat to go nonstop, coast to coast on any play.
2nd down, we'll call it 5. Inside handoff, and again, a big hole. Deron Holloway has started out quite well.
And again, if we watch this, I think for all those that are watching today, his first step and his quickness is just so important. He just gets to that hole, and he has great vision when he gets to the hole.
You know, typically you think about size being diminutive, being a negative. For him, it's an asset. There you see Holloway. He has the ability to hide behind his offensive line, and it just gives the defense headaches.
You know, it's funny, I talked to John Emmel before the game, and I asked him if he was going to put a spy on Carlton Aiken, the quarterback, and he said if we do that, then Holloway will kill us. So it's pretty obvious that they very respect the actions that Deron Holloway can do.
2nd down and 9. You mentioned Aiken, the talented quarterback. Now working out of the shotgun. There you see him. 85 completions on 147 attempts. Aiken, he'll keep it. And now he will stretch it out. It looks like he'll be just shy of the 1st down. Looks like he got a good spot.
And I'll tell you, once again, we're going to see that like zone read offense. It's been run by so many of the NFL teams, but it gives an athlete like Aiken so much open space to operate. He can throw, he can run, and that time he just took off and really gained positive yardage for the Raiders.
3rd and 1 for the Red Raiders.
So 3rd down and short for Aiken and the Red Raiders. And probably going to see a little bit more of Aiken or Holloway here on the 3rd and short. Pensgrove stacks her defense, quarterback draw. Aiken slips, drives forward, and I'm not sure he made it.
And that's the second person that we've seen slip on the field. We were down on the field earlier, and it seemed pretty well, but we did have rain during the week, so that could be a possibility.
Because it's been so cold, it's going to take a little longer for the dew to evaporate down there, and we've seen that. This is a field that is traditionally well maintained, so it's probably just whatever
it's a good point. With 50 degrees, it's not exactly 85 out there and dry. We're going to come across and measure for our first measure of the day. I think Paulsboro is basically in the mode right now that they're going to go for a 4-down offense and keep Pensgrove on the defensive.
Well, we'll have our first spot of the game. So again, a very, very short 4th down here. And it's probably going to be Aiken or Holloway. If you're Glenn Howard, undoubtedly you go for it here.
Yeah, some of the old school coaches would say punt the football and put them deep in their territory. But I think Paulsboro's the offense of the 21st century, which is keep going and keep being aggressive.
Again, these are two coaches that believe in what they have up front. So we'll see who wins this initial battle. 4th down and 1 for Paulsboro. They have been moving the football. See the clock there, just over 9 minutes remaining in this first quarter. Your Atlantic City Electric Game of the Week here from Paulsboro High School. Full house backfield, Aiken, and he will push forward, and Aiken will get the thrust, and they'll have enough for the first down.
Second effort was the key on that. The initial surge, he did not get the first down, but he kept his legs moving, kept the pile moving. First down for the Raiders.
First down. First down, Red Raiders. First down for Paulsboro.
First down and 10 at the 49-yard line. So Paulsboro's first entree into Pensgrove territory. Aiken again working out of the shotgun. He has Holloway. They'll hand it to Holloway. Holloway trying to elude tacklers. Escapes one, and then finally forced out of bounds, but turns a negative into a positive.
And that's exactly what that was. You know, a good story one time, Joe Frapoli, who was a good friend in Florence, came down during all their years. They had great teams when Kevin Harvey was playing here. He said they played a game one time and was down on the 15-yard line of Paulsboro's own 15, and Kevin Harvey turned around and flipped the ball to nobody. He said, great, I'm finally going to get a break in the game. Kevin Harvey picked up the ball and ran 85 yards for a touchdown. So that could be Holloway.
Aiken with the ball, stretches it out, puts his head down, and gets back to the original line of scrimmage. So this will bring up a long 3rd down. Aiken is a talented passer as well. Keep your eyes on 88 John Pellegrini, one of his favorite targets, a big guy, 6'5", 215, with outstanding hands. Here you see the run.
And I think in this situation here, you can see the effort that's made by Aiken. He's got quick feet. He really motors, but a great job there by Pensgrove.
Here's Aiken. He has his man in and out of the hands of his intended receiver, Alan Childress. That's one of those dangerous tip plays that could have easily been picked off by the Red Devils. Instead, it's going to be a punt, their first of the afternoon for the Red Raiders.
And a big plus for Pensgrove for their defensive purposes to get a stop this early in the game. It's a big confidence builder for them.
So punting will be Tyreek King. Gets the punt away. It's high and it's short. Pensgrove will merely let this bounce. It takes a Pensgrove bounce and it will be downed at about the 27-yard line. First down and 10 for Pensgrove. Pensgrove is coming into this game not with a tremendous amount of momentum, frankly, whereas Paulsboro is maybe playing some of their best football.
I think so. Once Paulsboro got through with playing Haddonfield early in the game, they just really gone through their schedule as quick as they possibly can. Paulsboro and Pensgrove's played Camden.
There you see some of the comparisons, Fred. Talk a little bit about what you see there.
Well, when you check it out, it's a pretty interesting situation in the rushing yards situations, and the receiving yards are really pretty close when you look at everything that's there. Sacks and interceptions. This really could be an even football game, but I'll tell you, there's a mystique that's always around the Red Raiders, and I think that's what Pensgrove has to overcome.
Well, again, you mentioned that both of these teams relatively close in terms of the comparison. Of course, you see Paulsboro appreciably more touchdowns, so from a scoring standpoint, we mentioned that in the open, that Paulsboro has a vaunted offense. And it's going to take a lot for Pensgrove to stop them. But as you mentioned, Fred, that was a big stop to start this
I think
first
so, too.
quarter.
I really do. And I also think, Robin, the part of it, Pensgrove's schedule was pretty good. They played Camden High School up at Camden High. They played Glassboro. They played some good teams in that old Tri-County Conference. And the Colonial Conference has some good teams, but it also has some teams that aren't as good as the competition that Pensgrove has played.
Pensgrove just allowing 14 points per game versus Paulsboro's 16. But again, there you see the disparity in offensive points per game. Pensgrove, I think as a football team, whenever you come into Paulsboro, you have to question, are we good enough to win in this environment? Are we good enough to beat the team that is a legend, frankly, in South Jersey amongst Group 1? And little victories add up to big victories. That was a big stop.
That was a big stop. Now we'll see what they can do with the ball on offense.
First down at 10. Pensgrove did call timeout there. They're looking to regroup. And Jason James, still your quarterback. He hands it off and into the secondary. Fine little run by Craig Ransom.
And that's a great name in Pensgrove. The Ransom family has produced some great athletes down there. He showed some quickness to come through, positive no yardage.
So gain of 4, second down and 6 for Pensgrove. There you see Ransom coming into today, 435 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns. So he really is kind of their go-to guy on the ground. We mentioned Kamir Brown. Kamir Brown is truly a weapon for this Pensgrove team. They're going to run it straight up the gut, maybe pick up 2.
One of the things I've noticed already, John Emmel said before the game, he really was hoping his O-line could control Paulsboro's D-line. That hasn't happened. So it's still early, you're still probing, you're still trying to find out where you can go. But Paulsboro holding up very, very well against the front of Pensgrove.
Well, Pensgrove started and essentially was a 3-and-out. They missed the field goal. We talk about confidence. They need a first down to gain some offensive confidence. The handoff, and going absolutely nowhere is number 25, Samij Moore.
Good swarming to the football done by the Red Raiders. Really straight up, heads up play coming up. It was just a power off the right side tackle, and linebackers and the defensive tackles for Paulsboro just read it well, made the play, forced the punt.
Back to receive the punt for the Red Raiders is A.J. Google. 4th down and short. There's some concern here in the press box about maybe faking it here. I don't think you're going to see that here that early. Pensgrove will get the punt away after a high snap. Tariq Robinson hits what essentially is a low ground ball, and it will work out quite well and be down inside the 15-yard line. So special teams play has played a role here again for Pensgrove. They had the awkward onside kick that was successful, and now an excellent punt.
Yeah, almost like a wind cheater punt. It wasn't too far above the heads of all the linesmen were there, but it carried down the field, got a good roll, and now Pensgrove has a situation now where they put Paulsboro deep in their field area.
Well, because of power points, both of these teams will be on the road next week no matter who wins. And it is Pennsville who will host. So Aitken out of the shotgun, hands off. Here's Holloway. He cuts it back inside against the grain. Holloway still on his feet. And finally slung down by Moore is Teron Holloway.
Well, for people like me that are seeing Paulsboro for the first time this year, I'm really impressed with Davon Holloway. He's good vision, good cut, and good speed. Watch again. Watch that cut he makes right here. Bang. There he goes. Back against the green. Great job of running by and vision by Davon Holloway.
Here's Aiken again out of the shotgun. He'll hand it off. Here's Holloway. Holloway met immediately, and that'll be very close to a first down. In that last replay, again, we saw some players slipping on the field, Fred.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I'm coming back to your thought that it was so cold last night that we could have had some frost on the field and may still be on the upper levels of the field.
So, not really any precipitation in the forecast, but certainly playing a role. 3rd down and 1, and Aiken looking to get signs from the sideline. Google split left, and Pellegrini, your slot receiver. So Paulsboro will call a timeout here, and again, a critical 3rd down from the sense that both of these teams trying to exert some of their muscle upon the other team.
And it's typical playoff football. There's a lot of nerves when we go into the beginning part. Even if you've been there before, Paulsboro is the defending South Jersey sectional champion, but your first game in the playoffs, especially because you're playing a very, very good opponent, always brings those nerves to the forefront.
Of course, we're doing the game on a Saturday here. We had an opportunity to see some playoff football last night. Fred, any teams that are surprising you?
Well, I was very surprised with Clayton. Clayton beats Salem last week in a regular season game. They beat Gloucester, a team that had beaten them earlier in the season, and now they'll get a rematch if Salem can get past Glassboro. I think probably the most impressive might have been the Woodstown-Haddonfield game, which many people thought Haddonfield would win easily. It went down to the final play of the game, and a field goal won it for Haddonfield. So I think that was a surprising element. Delsey looks really good in Group 3, and I think the Power Brokers in Group 4 and Group 5 all won. So it should be very, very interesting when the next round comes up.
No question. Group 5, Cherokee and Williamstown will be an excellent game next week. But again, getting back to that Clayton game, there you see John Emmel 5-3 on the season this year. You got to take your hat off to Clayton. First time hosting a playoff game, victorious over Gloucester. It's great to see.
Great job by Marvin Tucker.
3rd down and 1, and Pensgrove jumps.
Flag on the play.
Well, that's probably something that was actually discussed with the coaching staff to try to draw them off sides.
Yeah, the old famous no play. You get up there and you just make a couple adjustments on the line. You take the count that you're using, you change the order that you do, and it usually draws somebody off sides.
Well, Craig Ransom just trying to be a little bit too aggressive there, and it results in a first down. There you see our officials: Mike Mole, Dan McGettigan, John Jackson, Brent Harris, Andrew Welsh, and Tom Concannon. Here's Holloway. Holloway into the secondary, a penalty flag down. We're going to have a hold. This play's coming back.
And you can see Paulsboro heading back there right now. Boy, what an impressive burst of speed there by Davon Holloway.
The call on John Pellegrini. Pellegrini not pleased with the call, but this will come back.
Here's the call by the official, that dreaded holding call. They move the ball back 10 yards from the spot of the hold, and we'll be repeating first down.
So it looks like it's about 1st and 16. Aiken still working out of the shotgun there. You see Pellegrini resetting into the slot. Aiken rolls to his left, throws, has a man, and overthrows his intended receiver, Emmanuel Simon. He did have a step on the defense.
And very interesting move there, because he's rolling against his right-handed quarterback, rolling left, has to throw across his body. Could be a factor in that throw because the receiver was definitely open.
Again, we mentioned too, very strong wind today, and you know, it's going to take a few throws to kind of iron that out. 2nd down and 16. There you see many of the faithful here at Paulsboro. A very, very cold day. It feels even colder because we've had such temperate weather. Three receiver set for Aitken. Holloway. Aitken has Holloway all by himself in the flat. Holloway into the secondary. And a nice little call by Paulsboro results in a first down.
It was a complete rollout to the left and what we called a throwback pass to the receiver. You'll check it out. Aikens rolls, takes 3 steps, throws back to Holloway. Now that's isolated him one-on-one out in the open. Good gain for the Raiders.
First and 10. Here's Holloway, cuts it inside. Holloway spinning and driving. Holloway very dangerously putting that ball out to get an extra yard, but he was not down yet. Someone slaps that out, and we have a turnover.
Yeah, I think Coach Howard will have something to say about that immediately because you got to protect the ball when you're going in the inside like that.
Holloway will come off the field for what looks like an equipment issue, and Dustin Herrera, big back, senior, 5'8", 185 pounds, on to replace Holloway. Aitken, quick drop, has his man, and that falls incomplete. Again, we see the wind kind of wreaking havoc with the football.
And I think that's a really good statement there, Rob, because it looks like his positioning to throw the ball is really well, and he's releasing the ball well, so the wind must have a dramatic effect on the ball as it's going along.
3rd down and 9. For the Red Raiders. Herrera still in the backfield. A 4 receiver set here for the Red Raiders. Aitken steps in, now rolls to his right, gets backside pressure. Aitken slung down and hit out of bounds. So Aitken able to pick up 3 or 4, and that'll bring up a long 4th down. Paulsboro likely to punt it away here.
And in the old coaching vernacular, we would call that almost a great coverage play because Aitken looked for quite a period of time looking to find a receiver. There was no one open, took off and tried to create his own magic.
Tariq Robinson back to receive the punt for Pensgrove. Last time he probably gave Paulsboro a little bit too much room given the fact that there is that strong wind. He will move up a little bit. Right now set at the 30-yard line awaiting the kick of Tyreek King. The kick now. And it falls right where he was standing, but he opts to let it bounce, and it goes nowhere. So 1st down and 10 for Pensgrove at the 31-yard line. Your Atlantic City Electric game of the week. A good one. 2 Group 1 teams that have had their share of success throughout the years.
And if you follow the last year's champion in the sectionals for Group 1, Paulsboro, the year before that, Pensgrove. So we've got them both here. A lot of experts thought that these 2 teams might be in the final, and here they are meeting in the first round of the playoffs.
You know, talk a little bit about what PowerPoints have done to change the landscape.
Yeah, and even more the fact that you get residuals. You now get points if a team has beaten you. And it was supposedly done to try to encourage teams to play better teams. So even if you lost the game, plus you can throw out one of the games that you have your lowest power points. Dramatic effect on scheduling.
1st down and 10 out of the shotgun. The southpaw throws it up, looking, and just outside the outstretched arms of Tariq Robinson. Interestingly, it looked like Robinson tried to create some space, stopped, and then the ball was out beyond him.
And that's really true. And number 4 for Paulsboro, Tariq Robinson, number 4 for Paulsboro, Emmanuel Simon, may have gotten away with a little push-off at the end, but no harm, no foul. Rob, it's going to be interesting with the Colonial and the Cal going in next year to the WJFL. All the scheduling will be done by one conference, so it could be very interesting. I don't know whether you can go up and say who you'd like to play for your non-conference games, but the way PowerPoints hit, that could be a big factor.
I think there's a lot of teams that will benefit. The first one that comes to mind is West Deptford. In motion, it's Brown. Throw, and that will find no one. So 3rd down. You know, West Deptford for so many years so successful in the Colonial Conference, and you know, once PowerPoints became the biggest issue, really suffered because of the playing primarily, you know, Group 1 schools. Now they'll have an opportunity to maybe even play up.
Right, and I think you'll see Clyde Folsom has never been afraid to voice that he'd like to play really, really good teams, and it doesn't really help him sometimes to play those 60-0 games. So I think you'll see him scheduled very, very aggressively.
It still gives them the flexibility to have some of those crossover games, those traditional rivalries like West Deptford and Paulsboro for Thanksgiving. So 3rd down and 10 here for Jason James. and he's directing traffic. 2 receivers set, 2 men in the backfield for James. He's yet to connect on a pass. James will throw it up, has his man Robinson, and that will fall incomplete. So again, 3 and out there.
And interesting, if the first 2 series was everything running the football, that series, no runs, all deep passes. So I'm sure Sir John Emil is probing to see what he has, but it's almost like we can't run, now we have to throw.
There was no better indication of the wind. Tom Kincannon was back there as one of the back judges. The wind took his cap and blew it all the way out of bounds. He had to retrieve both the hat and the football. So 4th down now for Pensgrove. And he's going to throw. Has his man wide open, and it falls incomplete. It looked like it bounced. And it looks like they're going to count that as a reception.
It certainly does, Rob, and hopefully we have a replay of that. It was interesting because they split a wide out, and nobody covered him from Paulsboro at all. It was noticed by the sidelines. They quickly went to the fake kick, and first down.
Well, I mentioned the first punt that they were concerned about a fake, and I had said that I don't think they would call it that early. They obviously anticipated it, but some communication from press box to sideline creates an issue, and it's 1st down and 10 here for the Red Raiders. Inside handoff, maybe 1.
Great play.
I don't know if we have an opportunity to take a look at that on replay, but it looked like it bounced from up here in the press box.
We're going to hopefully have a decent look in here.
I don't believe we have that.
Okay.
2nd down and 9. See, inside of 90 seconds remaining in a tightly played game thus far.
1 minute.
Your quarterback, Jason James, has yet to complete a pass. The handoff. And again, it is Ransom. Ransom with nowhere to go. So, Fred, not successful in the air. They're having problems finding their receivers, and they have nowhere to go on the ground. You don't have many more options available to you.
There really isn't. That's what I was sitting in at this point. They tried the inside hasn't worked. They've tried to get outside, the outside doesn't work, and they've thrown the ball and it hasn't worked. So unless we have some gimmick plays or gadgetries or special plays that they've come up with, I don't really have an answer yet.
I got to believe that it's going to be through the air that they're going to have to find success, and maybe that will kind of soften up the line. So the quarterback, James, will look for his first completion here. Again, working out of the shotgun. And we're going to have whistles, and we may have a delay of game. It is delay of game against Pensgrove.
And what you've said, Rob, is really, really good thinking in the fact that Paulsboro is putting so many people in the box right now, and they're stopping that inside run and outside run. The only way you are going to loosen that up is be successful throwing the ball.
3rd down and 15. And Fred, as an offensive coordinator, are you just looking to gain yards here? Or are you trying to get a first down?
I'm trying to gain yards. I just want to get some kind of positive to get things going.
Again, out of the shotgun. Now, flushed out of the pocket. He'll keep. Evades one tackler, but he won't evade anymore. Slung down. He'll pick up 3 or 4, but never get back to the original line of scrimmage. It'll be 4th down at 12, and Pensgrove, again, will be forced to punt it away, but that won't happen until the 2nd quarter. We'll step away. We are scoreless at Paulsboro on your Atlantic City Electric Game of the Week. Welcome back to Paulsboro High School. Rob Christ along with Fred Schwartz. Our Atlantic City Electric Game of the Week on the Gloucester County Educational Network is a good one. We're scoreless through one. Pensgrove called timeout right before the end of the first quarter, which was a wise call on the part of the Pensgrove coaching staff. They punted it away. Deron Holloway with a nice little return, and there you see him getting stretched out. We hope to see Holloway back, and Paulsboro will now have the wind to their back. First down and 10 inside the 30-yard line. Aiken in the backfield, out of the shotgun. And not a whole lot there. It's been quite a defensive battle. Each team really finding not a whole lot of room to operate.
And that's true, and I think the thing that'll be interesting now with Paulsboro, with the wind, I think you're going to see a lot more of the ball in the air, or in a situation where one of their speedsters can go one-on-one.
Speaking of speedsters, Tyreek King is down on the field. He is a 6'3" wideout, but maybe most importantly, he is their punter. So we'll see if this plays a role in the evolution of this football game.
It'll be interesting. The winner of this game gets to play Pennsville next week. Pennsville beating Woodbury on a final drive that culminated in a touchdown in the last minute. Pensgrove plays Pennsville on Thanksgiving Day. So you might be in a situation where they play both teams. And of course, Paulsboro plays West Deptford. Now, even though they go probably off Thanksgiving, it's an incredibly difficult game to play before the finals. There's been a lot of talk among people that do not like Thanksgiving Day games, that it hurts the playoff teams. And then us that were former ADs, that's when we made the most money.
It's funny. I think that's a factor that a lot of people don't think about. But, you know, for me, you know, football, Thanksgiving.
That's part of Americana.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than when you come into some of these small towns and it's Thanksgiving morning, and that's part of the day. Listen, we're going to wake up early, we're going to go to breakfast, we're going to go to the football game, and then we're going to come back and we're going to...
Turkey Day, that's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the schools, I know when I was at Audubon, they would have a parade the night before. Between the towns. And it was always usually against your natural rival, so that was always going.
So, I grew up in Willingboro, and growing up, our rival was John F. Kennedy High School.
Schools,
So you had two schools in the same town, and you want to talk about a rivalry.
No,
you know?
I can imagine.
And what's fun is, of course, these are kids that you're going to see afterwards. So, you know, this is something that you're going to talk about all the time.
Or fight for girlfriends over.
That's right.
11:43 left in the second quarter.
Well, there you see Pensgrove able to escape. That's Teak Jones, excuse me. I may have misidentified him as Tyreek King. Teak Jones, the punter for Pensgrove. Aiken hit as he throws. Is it ruled a pass or a fumble? It looks like they're going to rule that a pass. Very fortunate, because that could have easily been ruled a fumble.
Yeah,
I guess it went forward.
Yeah, that's the only thing you could think of, because it sure looked like it went backward from here. But if it had been that would have been a fumble. There it is. Boy, it's close.
Hard to see at that angle.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. The person in black and white stripes called it incomplete, and that's all that matters.
That's correct. Third down, and now a penalty here. Not sure what's going on. Procedure against Paulsboro.
Against the Red Raiders. It'll cost 5 yards. Third.
Well, it's interesting being here in the Paulsboro press box. We have one of the Paulsboro coaches here who was, you know, relaying signs down below and signals and so on, and you hear just some of the frustrations of the coaching staff.
Yeah, I think they firmly expected to be moving the ball and not making mistakes. I think there's also been some alignment problems.
Third down now for Aiken. He's flushed out of the pocket, throws looking for Pellegrini, and that falls incomplete. So Paulsboro will be forced to punt it away. And again, Fred, you know, coming into the game, you see a Pensgrove team. They lost to, you know, a couple games coming into today. I don't know that I expected it to be 0-0 after.
No, and I didn't
quarter.
either. And even though they played Camden at Camden, which is a very, very difficult game, they lost to Glassboro last week at Glassboro. But I expected Paulsboro to be able to score points almost at Beckon's call.
So again, it's going to be Pensgrove's Tariq Robinson to take the punt, but he'll watch it bounce out of bounds. And Pensgrove has had excellent field position all day long, and this is no different as it's going to be starting off. This drive will start off in Paulsboro territory.
And started off the game when they had the ball on the 30-yard line, so they certainly had the opportunities to go. They just have been unable to really mount any offense against Paulsboro at all.
So, Fred, as a football coach, you look at, what's transpired here. If you're Pensgrove, do you say, you know what, we're doing a great job, it's a scoreless game, or do you say, you know what, we have not been able to take advantage, we can't win that way?
And I would be saying the latter.
Okay.
I would absolutely be saying the latter. I said, you only get so many opportunities in a football game.
Inside handoff and pickup of about 2 or 3 for Samij Moore, and that's one of the larger gains thus far.
Yes, and it's interesting you said that, Rob, because you think about there's probably 8 plays that decide a football game somewhere along the line. That first play of the game could have been one of those big 8 plays to decide the game.
That's a great point. There you see Moore's stats, 384 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns coming into this afternoon. 2 receivers split left. It is Tariq Robinson and Kymir Brown. Again, it has been tough going for Jason James. The lefty has not been able to complete a pass thus far. With time, pass across the middle, and it's caught. A fine catch, and there you see why Brown is so heavily recruited.
And that was a dart thrown by James. What we call a choice route outside, where the outside receiver went down, the inside receiver broke in on the slant, and it was wide open.
Good coverage on the play, but
see it.
Brown able to hold on. First down and 10.
You can see the move. Here we go.
A big hit laid out as Craig Ransom is stopped for a loss. Paulsboro answers big. Fine play as Dustin Herrera making his presence known.
So the only thing now you're thinking, if you're upstairs calling everything down, is the only thing that possibly has a remote thing of success is throwing the quick pass, the quick slants, the quick wheel routes, whatever you're going to need to do. And that may be what we'll see Pensgrove do right here.
We're going to have to hustle. They've already had 1 penalty called for delay of game, and this play is taking a long time to get out to the field. Again, working out of the shotgun, it's Jason James. They'll hand it off, and he's looking to throw. Throws it up, and that will find its way well out of bounds. Uncatchable pass is Tariq Robinson.
So a little gimmickry right there, a gimmick play set up by Pensgrove to hope that aggressiveness of Paulsboro would bring them straight up on the running back, and Paulsboro did a great job of playing defensive football and assignment football on that.
Yeah, you have to credit here. You see again number 9, Tariq Brown throwing that halfback pass and double coverage. That illustrates some discipline on the part of Paulsboro.
Absolutely.
3rd down now, again and long. With time, James, and that falls incomplete.
And that was kind of interesting because only really 1 receiver was out for Paulsboro. So Paulsboro dropped, and there was no really choices there for James to throw. So it'll set up a 4th down. I think you basically have to go.
Oh, last time when it was 4th and long, they opted to go for a field goal. Of course, now they are kicking into the wind, and this would be appreciably longer. So instead of punting, they're going to hope Jason James can hook up with one of his receivers. And this is a case where if you just throw it up in the end zone, a lot of time high school kids don't recognize the value in that, and they will try to intercept the ball, and it works as a punt. So we'll see how this plays out for Pensgrove. James, quick drop, slings it outside, quick outlet pass, and picks up positive yardage, but that will be well short of the first down.
So there were a couple positives we have to take a look for Pensgrove. That they did get a first down, they did make some positive plays, but Paulsboro just showing their aggressiveness, and I think more like the discipline of playing defense football the way Glenn Howard wants to be playing.
Now, Pensgrove and their defense have been up to the test. We'll see if that continues. Aitken with Holloway and a 3-receiver set. Aitken rolls, has his man underneath, hit, and finally cut down is his receiver Childress after a pickup of about 6.
I think now we're going to get a chance to see the passing part of the offense, which will set up Holloway's run. But the key is getting those speedsters one-on-one with Pensgrove and hoping something good happens.
No huddle offense now for the Red Raiders. Aitken bobbles the snap, rolls to his right, flushed out of the pocket, throws underneath, and he finds Google for the first down.
And once again, now you're seeing hurrying to the line. They're going to set that tempo up to go that quick spread offense and to force Pensgrove not to be able to substitute.
Again, 3 receivers set for Aitken with Holloway in the backfield. Aitken, 2-step drop throws, has a man, and it looks like both Google and Pellegrini were looking for the football. The throw was in between the two of them.
Yeah, and I don't know whether that was a choice route or it was just a situation where Aitken hurried his throw because both receivers were open.
Again, no huddle here. Tempo offense. Aitken throws inside screen, has his man. That's Simon. Simon cuts it across the grain, well into the secondary, first down.
We used to call that the old rocket screen when Rocket Ishmael played for Notre Dame, but it's a wide receiver screen with blockers downfield, puts that wide receiver one-on-one on the defender, and it's usually a good happening. Here it is. Watch his move right after he gets the ball. Lineman coming downfield. Good block by Pellegrini right there, and good effort.
Aitken avoids 3 tacklers, still on his feet, avoiding another one, and finally slammed down. A loss of maybe 1, but it could have been a whole lot worse for Aitken.
Right now, we're getting to see Paulsboro's offense at its best. The up-tempo, get everything rolling. The plays are happening rapid fire.
Whistle blows here. I don't see any indication.
That probably plays to the advantage of Pensgrove because they can reset.
Aitken again, working out of the shotgun with Holloway. Fakes the handoff. Aitken avoids 1 tackler. Will he avoid another? And he throws it out of bounds, but it doesn't look like there's anyone there, so we're going to have a penalty.
Well, I think the key on that one is he's outside the tackle box, but the pass has to get to the line of scrimmage, and I don't think that got to the line of scrimmage, so that will be called intentional grounding.
So it is intentional grounding, and this will back up Paulsboro. They had so much momentum, and now after the rush of Pensgrove, you have to credit this defense.
Yeah, you can see it here. He tried to make the good move. He was pressured. He just tried to do the old little flip right here, but the ball did not make it to the line of scrimmage, and that's also a loss of down on the penalty.
Well, the first down is at the 29-yard line of Pensgrove, and right now they're at their own 29-yard line, so that gives you some insight as to how far they have to go. Aitken again working out of the shotgun. Pensgrove has pressured him, and they again find Holloway in the flat. Holloway on his feet, finally knocked out of bounds. A smart little pass, and fortunately for Pensgrove, now here Bland able to push him out of bounds, and we'll see whether or not Paulsboro goes or punts. It's going to be 4th down and about 9.
And I think they're going to go for it. They needed about half the distance to get a chance to go, and I think they're going to take the shot right here and go for it.
Well, they're going to have to account for Holloway. He has been dangerous both via the running game and that quick little flare pass. Out of the shotgun, Aitken with time, throws underneath, tipped up and caught on his way towards the end zone and finally knocked out of bounds. But a fortuitous tip finds its way into the hands of Alan Childress.
We talk about football being a game of inches. Watch this. The ball is right on target. It could have been intercepted. It bounces right up, goes to Childress, and down the sideline he goes. Wow. 1 second other movement, and that ball is intercepted.
Well, you mentioned there's only a few big plays during the course of the game. That certainly is one of them. It's going to be goal to go here for the Red Raiders. Aitken working out of the shotgun has Holloway. And now whistles blow. Pensgrove will call timeout.
Which, interesting enough, that'll be their third timeout of the half, so they're out for the rest of the half.
This is a situation when you want to make sure that you have the right defense in. This is a turning point in the football game.
I agree, and I think also you have to regroup a little bit because you thought you had the right play, you thought you were going to stop them and get momentum back, and now your backs are to the goal line.
Well, it was an interesting call because it was 4th down and 9. You have the wind to your back, so I think, coaching 101 says punt the football and then force the other team to throw it into the wind. They did not do that, and call it a great call or maybe a little bit of luck. Either way, Paulsboro's knocking on the door.
And probably what Glenn was thinking at that time when they had 21 yards to go for the first down. If I get 10, then I might go for it. If I get 3, then I punt the football.
Right.
And who knows, one score could be a big factor in this game.
Again, in many ways, you think about the confidence he has in his offense there, but I think it speaks even more about the confidence he has in his defense.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I'll tell you, I think he thinks now his defense is not going to give up a lot of scores today.
So again, 1st down and goal here for Paulsboro. Aiken with Holloway. Aiken keeps, cuts it inside. Aiken towards the end zone, touchdown.
Great little move there on the read option because the linebackers took right off with Holloway as he thought he was going to go for the sweep. Aiken makes one move, into the end zone he goes, touchdown for the Red Raiders.
As a football coach, are you upset now because you wasted that timeout?
Yes, positively. You need every one of them, and you might need one for a situation in the last minute and a half.
Unable to even stop him on the first play, it just adds to your frustration. It's been a frustrating afternoon because, as we mentioned, Pensgrove has had great field position throughout the day. Paulsboro's Matt Kelsey on to attempt the point after, and the point is up, and it's good. So 7-0. Paulsboro strikes first. We mentioned in the open, Fred, that Pensgrove probably needed to score first.
Yes, I agree with that. You got to see a real good option right there when Paulsboro ran the read option to fake the Holloway going around. It just took the linebackers right out, and then there was a wide opening for Aiken to get into the end zone. Yeah, I agree. I think a team like Pensgrove was always good playing ahead than playing behind, and I think the one thing they didn't want to do is have to be able to come back.
Well, we'll see what Pensgrove has to say as they try to answer Paulsboro here. Again, Paulsboro will kick it off with their wind to their back. Pensgrove's not going to know what to do having the ball in their own end. We'll see whether or not they can have a positive return here.
And I think also this becomes, for all of us that we're coaching, you know it as well as I do, this becomes a character move right now. You had opportunities to take the lead, now you're behind, and now we're going to find out exactly what your team is made of.
Absolutely. I think it's a situation where it's not a case where you necessarily need to score, but you need to have a couple of first downs, put together a drive, and make Paulsboro know that, they're going to have a fight on their hands.
And that may be a very interesting point because that may have been the reason that Glenn went there, because he thought that Pensgrove's not going to be able to score a lot of points today.
So kickoff about to come from Paulsboro's Matt Kelsey. And you can see just how windy it is today. I don't know if we can get a shot of the American flag, but very, very strong wind here at Paulsboro. Always seems to be windy here. Kelsey will kick it away. It's a short end-over-end kick taken in the air at about the 15-yard line. Still on his feet and finally cut down. It looked to be number 16 Nahir Blend. And the Red Raiders.
There's our flag, Rob. You can see how it's just stretched straight out. Great job there by the special teams at the time who ran around the wall and ran back and made the play. That was great individual effort.
Thank you to our great crew on hand. One of the things, Fred, I have the utmost respect for our crew. Days like this where it's absolutely freezing, they do a tremendous job.
Nothing better, no one better, I guess is the best way to put it.
So again, Pensgrove will start their drive. Jason James will hand it off inside, and again, that has not been an a recipe for success thus far.
Football coaches talk a lot about push. If you get that push off that from the offensive lineman and drive the defensive lineman back, that is not happening.
You talk about push when the field is wet, like we've seen today, and both offensively and defensively, each team's trying to push. Does one side have an advantage?
You think the team that's on offense because they know the starting count and they know exactly when they're leaving. When you're a defensive coach, you just teach the kid to watch the offensive lineman's hand, and when that moves, you move.
Jason James, again, working out of the shotgun. And the handoff, evading one tackle, but finally brought down. Again, Moore with little, if any, on the carry.
And again, when you haven't been able to dominate either with the pass or the run, it allows the defense to take chances. And you can see they dialed up a few blitzes, which makes it even more difficult for the end. You'll get to see it here, though. Just missed there by the tackle, but Ransom just has nowhere to go.
Well, you saw the penetration by Dustin Herrera. He has been a factor defensively here. Unable to wrap up more, but able to stem the momentum. James throws, has his man, and it is picked off. Tyreek King.
And again, trying to make something happen. There's just nothing easy that's coming out there, and mistakes take place. Nice interception by Tyreek King.
He tried to throw in traffic, and it was King who comes away with the ball.
Now, Glenn Howard knows very, very well the best play right here now is a home run.
Handoff, Holloway. Holloway driving still on his feet, and he'll be stopped after pickup of about 8.
Of course, why pass if you have Holloway that can run 8 yards every time he touches the ball?
That's right. Second down and 2 now for Paulsboro, and Aiken still with Holloway in the backfield. Aiken rolls to his left. He'll keep now. Aiken throws, tipped up, intercepted, and they rule he was inbounds.
How about that? Got a little greedy there and tried to go right down for the big play. He had room in front of him to run, and a great interception there made by Pensgrove.
I wonder if Aiken was over the line of scrimmage when he threw the ball. There's a penalty flag on the field, but it looks like it's going to go against Paulsboro.
Yeah, that may be 100% correct. And again, that for a young quarterback is you got the first down, you've got plenty of room to go.
That is the call. Illegal forward pass as Aiken was over the line of scrimmage and would have been better suited to just tuck it under and get the first down.
Exactly, but you always have a tendency to want to make the big play, and that's a tough situation to be in.
Well, that's a big break, and we'll see whether or not Pensgrove can take advantage.
And again, for Paulsboro, it's not the worst thing that could ever happen in the game because Pensgrove is really down deep in their own territory. They haven't been able to move the ball. And there's a chance you may get the ball back with good field position anyway.
Well, this Pensgrove team has to be filled with self-doubt. They cannot run the football, and they're coming off of an interception. So, again, trying to establish the run has not been a recipe for success thus far. We'll see what the Red Devils have dialed up here. First down and 10 deep in their own end, by far their worst field position of the day. And the handoff, and it's fumbled. It's loose, it's in the end zone, and it's a touchdown. No, it's a safety.
It's going to be a safety. I think the ball went out over the line.
Back end, yes, it is a safety.
Again, they attempted to sweep. The ball was dropped. It's rolling in the end zone. You know, that's where you almost tell the situation if a player's needed to kick the darn thing out of the end zone because you'll give up 2 instead of 6. So, but it's a double whammy now. Here it is again. Watch, the ball goes down. It's rolling in the end zone. And, yeah, it goes definitely over the line.
I don't know what happened with Banks there. I mean, the ball looked like it was in his belly, and he just simply dropped it.
And sometimes that can be you're trying to make a big play, you get a little frustrated, you try to do too much. But Actually, Pensgrove is very fortunate. It's only 2 points.
How about a nice hand for our 2015-2016?
So now a 9-0 lead for Paulsboro. I mentioned that Pensgrove probably filled it with self-doubt. That's not going to help, but that is not a confidence booster.
If you're Pensgrove at this point, you almost hope that it goes into halftime at 9-0 and you can regroup, you can blackboard everything that you need to do. If it goes to 16-0, it's going to make it a tough uphill fight.
I guess the only positive would be that either way it's a 2-score game.
Correct.
And we see that Pensgrove's Tony Verdecchio will kick it away. This is his second kickoff. And I guess the other good news is that Pensgrove will get the football to start the second half. Verdecchio's line drive past Google. Will be taken at the 24. Google cut down at the 29-yard line. That's a good special teams play by Pensgrove's Tariq Robinson.
And excellent we have a late flag coming in also. But it was a great deal for Pensgrove because they really got the best of what they needed. They were kicking off from the 20 against the wind. But we'll have to see what it's against Paulsboro.
So this will back up the Red Raiders even further.
Yes.
Against the Red Raiders.
Look like a push in the back.
Block in the back.
So if you're John Emmel, you make that into a positive. Now, if they can hold them here, the worst you would go in is down as 9-0, and that's not insurmountable.
Plenty of time left, 4 minutes and 44 seconds remaining in this first half. Again, the winner will go on to play Pennsville in the second round of the South Jersey Group 1 playoffs. Aiken out of the shotgun with Holloway. And he'll give to Holloway. Holloway driving forward. And again, you see the power of Deron Holloway.
As an old running back coach, I can tell you what I'm impressed most is leg drive. That once a lot of players, once they get hit the first time, they stop. And Deron Holloway keeps his legs moving, and that gets you positive yardage.
Second down and 6. Paulsboro with success on the ground via Holloway, and they'll give it right back to him. Holloway pushes off the first man, and now will find 3 or 4 other tacklers, and he'll be dropped for a rare loss.
And credit Pensgrove on that because their idea was to force the bounce. What we mean on that is the running back is intended to go for an off-tackle play. Instead, that's closed, and he has to push outside, and that gives your support time to come up and make the tackle.
Pensgrove has had excellent penetration throughout. And now 2 receivers set, split left, 4 receivers set, 2 split right, 2 split left. Aiken still with Holloway in the backfield. He's been a factor catching the football as well. Aiken throws it inside, and slung down immediately is Alan Childress. He'll be shy of the first down.
And a great one-on-one tackle there made by Raekwon Daniel. He just made sure that he wrapped up and that the receiver was not going to go any further.
So, interesting here is Glenn Howard looks like he's going to opt to punt given the fact that it's deep in their own end.
At their own 29-yard line.
So Paulsboro's Tyreek King to punt it away. At this point, he's not had a ball returned. It seems as though Pensgrove is content in letting the ball bounce. King again will watch his punt roll forward, and that will be down at about the 32-yard line. So not sure why, maybe you can walk me through this, why have a punt returner if we're not going to return punts?
We always told our punt returners to make sure you return the punt. If you can get it, you go for it because you want positive yardage. That's your best chance for a play. If not, you might as well just go block the punt.
But it doesn't look like they're even attempting to try to receive the ball.
Yeah, and then the best thing I can tell you, Rob, is returning punts isn't easy.
No, I know that, particularly with this wind.
There's a possibility that there's a little nerves playing in that thing. That's the only thing I can think.
Undoubtedly. First down and 10. Speaking of nerves, their last 2 plays have resulted in turnovers, a fumble and an interception. We'll see if Pensgrove can get it going in the right direction. James out of the shotgun, and he'll hand it off to his running back Ransom, who will pick up about 1, and that's been about it for Ransom.
That's exactly, again, I hate to keep harping on it, but if you look at the offensive line play like we do, there's just no push. There's just no movement at all, and the running back really has nowhere to go.
2nd down and 9. You see still over 2 minutes remaining in this first half. Keep an eye on Tariq Robinson at the bottom of your screen. Pass across the middle, has his man. It's the tight end well into the secondary, and a big first down as Jason James hooks up with Javar Garrett.
Best play that's been run by Pensgrove so far. A little run fake to hold the linebackers, and the tight end coming right over the middle, releasing him, and great play. That's what the first good thing that we've seen out of Pensgrove so far today.
1st and 10. Handoff. And still driving forward and trying to pick up a couple extra. Craig Ransom with 3 or 4 again. Maybe his longest run of the day. We have a player down on the field.
Now, first time we got to see the actual deal, that was the same similar play that had been run before, except this time the ball went into Ransom's hands and he had more maneuver because the linebackers couldn't bail out so quickly. So maybe there's some concepts in here they're going to keep trying to run those 2 plays to set up an offense.
It's hard to see the number of the player who is down.
Yeah, it looks like they're working on his leg. It could be a cramp or it could be just a banger in there. Let's hope that's all it is. He is moving, and that's always a good sign.
Minute 38 left in this first half. Paulsboro on the strength of an Aitken quarterback keep and a safety lead 9-0. Pensgrove, as we mentioned, coming off a pair of losses to Camden and Glassboro, trying to right the ship.
It's interesting, when we talked to the coaches this morning, when we talked to John Emmel, he said we needed ball control, we needed disciplined defense, and we need to win the turnover battle. And a couple of them have come back to haunt them so far.
And there is more coming off the field, so it looks like it may have been something that is temporary. Let's hope so. 2nd down and 5. You see 1:38 remaining. Clock continues to move. Again, your quarterback, Jason James, working out of the shotgun, and it's Ransom by his side. Ransom picks up the block. James throws it up, and it will be picked off. No, out of bounds. Well, an ill-advised pass there by Jason James. Unfortunately, it floated out of bounds.
Yeah, he was really fortunate to get the ball back because it wasn't even a receiver in the area.
So it'll be 3rd and 6 for the Red Raiders, or for the Red Devils.
3rd down and 5 again for Pensgrove with 1:26 left. And
41-yard line.
most likely opt to go to the air.
You want to get enough so you give yourself a chance to go for it on 4th down if that's your choice.
Craig Ransom in the backfield. Quick outlet into the flat, driving forward, and that looks like it will be enough for the first down.
Now remember again, Pensgrove has used all their timeouts, so they have nothing left to stop the clock except for an incomplete pass, a spike, or a run out of bounds. So you might see that play more, or you might see a chance for going down towards the end zone.
Tyreek Brown, the recipient of that swing pass, finds his way out of bounds, and as you mentioned, able to stop the clock. 1:20 left. Pensgrove stringing together a couple of first downs here. 1st down and 10. Back to pass with time. Keeps, throws, has his man, and unable to hook up. Diving, it looked like it was Garrett.
Yeah, and again, good time that time. The quarterback had plenty enough time to adjust his position. He just has to find the receiver, and I'm sure the wind has a big effect on that.
2nd down from the 35-yard line of Paulsboro.
Barring a turnover, Pensgrove's gotten one good sign is they're going to keep the score at 9-0 if they can, and they hopefully can add some points for themselves.
3 receiver set. Garrett in motion. James again with a lot of time. Inside screen, has his man, and maybe 3 or 4 for Tyreek Brown.
Great job by Paulsboro recognizing screen and getting out to the spot. But again, the clock is still running.
Again, a 3 receiver set. James back to pass. Now feels the pressure. Laterals it to Brown, and Brown will get back close to the original line of scrimmage, probably a yard shy. Clock continues to move here. We are inside of 30 seconds. 4th down and about 7 now.
That's a play that gives coaches gray hair.
Jason James again with the 3 receiver set. Back to pass. Has time, throws it up, and it is tipped up and falls incomplete.
And again, there's one of those plays again. It was tipped up in the air. Paulsboro made the play. This time it fell incomplete. But actually a good series for Pensgrove. They moved the ball. They had some positives, and they don't lead them into halftime, that's for sure. Now they got to make sure they don't give up something in the last 30 seconds. Or excuse me, 11 seconds.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you see like a screen pass here.
Yeah, I'd try any way I could get Holloway one-on-one with somebody.
Pensgrove playing very deep in their own end to ensure there is no long pass. We'll see whether or not Aiken goes to a knee.
That's what I think he's going to do.
He does. And that'll do it for this first half. It's been a relatively well-played first half. Outside of those 2 turnovers, we might have a scoreless game, but we did have those 2 turnovers, and right now that's been the difference. We head to halftime. It's Paulsboro on top of Pensgrove, 9-0. Welcome back to Paulsboro High School, about to kick off this second half. Matt Kelsey will do the honors, and it's a short kick right into the teeth of that wind, picked up at the 33-yard line. Not much of a return, maybe 3 yards. 1st down and 10, Garrett on the return.
Big drive coming up now for Pensgrove. They've gone back to the locker room. They've blackboarded everything that's taken place. They've made their adjustments. Now they have to come out and they've got to get positive results on this drive there, just for morale's sake, if nothing else.
You know, football's an interesting game because it's one of those rare sports where you can kind of really regroup. So much happens at halftime that really dictates the outcome of a football game.
Absolutely. You have to make adjustments, and you have to make changes to what you thought you were going to do to your game plan.
1st down for this Pensgrove offense. They sputtered in the first half, and not much changing on the first play of the second.
Yeah, interesting to see because they started right off with that power off tackle play, which had 0 success in the first half.
They continue to try to soften up the middle of that Paulsboro defense, but it does not look like it is working. Again, their best outcomes have been via the air. Jason James has not been overly successful, but that was the only time they were able to move the football.
Yes, correct. I think they just need something good, positive somewhere along the line. Maybe go back to that tight end right over the middle, which they were successful with at the end.
James out of the shotgun. Deep drop, throws inside screen, almost picked off. I don't think Childress had expected that ball to come right to him, and that would have been a pick 6.
Absolutely, and the best thing about that play, if you're a Pensgrove fan, is you got the ball back again for another snap, because that should have easily been a touchdown.
If possible, it looks like the wind has even picked up more.
Here it is right now. You can see it. 2 steps, throws the ball, it sailed. Wow.
Third and 9.
3rd down and 9 again. The most success they've had is actually throwing the ball over the middle.
Yes, especially to the big tight end. Of course, you could stop that really easy. You just jam that tight end and not let him out.
James looks over his offense. In motion is Brown. Draw. Ransom. And unable to beat that Paulsboro defense. A fine play made in the open by Chiron Quarles.
And it's going to be a 3 and out again for Pensgrove. Not exactly what they wanted. Good positive yardage on that play, though, but it'll be nothing more than. Looks like they're going to go for it.
4th down, they are going for it. An interesting call here. 3 receiver set and some confusion as Tariq Robinson looking to line up. He does. And it looks like they may try to just draw him off sides.
Yeah, good discipline there by Paulsboro. That's all they're trying to do.
So we're going to have a delay of game call. Worth a shot, right?
Yeah, it is worth a shot, but and at least smart that you don't use a timeout. Some of them do like 2 different cadence on that situation, then call a timeout. You might need that later. Paulsboro, they're showing great discipline.
So the punt now will transpire. 4th down and 10. And it looks like Paulsboro will start with excellent field position. Pensgrove still trying to get everybody situated here. They don't want to go 2 consecutive delay of games. Punt is away. It's a low line drive. It will roll. And forced to watch it roll is Google. Really had no alternative. A good outcome as the ball down all the way back deep in Paulsboro territory.
You know, good play in football sometimes called a Rembrandt, and that certainly wasn't a Rembrandt punt, but it was effective. Now we'll see what Glenn Howard has made for adjustments on offense to see if they can start to put some more points on the board.
Aiken again will start out of the shotgun. Handoff. And not a whole lot there. As Paulsboro will start on the ground with Dustin Herrera.
It's just a straight power play right off the bat. Maybe keep it simple to see if what adjustments Pensgrove has made at halftime. Now they'll come back with a regular offense.
Well, Paulsboro would like nothing better than a long drive on the ground to eat up significant clock and score. Pensgrove defense has been tough. Aiken has his man, it's Pellegrini. Pellegrini cut down, pickup of just a couple.
And Pellegrini, also an excellent basketball player with great size, has good hands, and is a possession receiver. So far, interesting, Rob. I haven't seen Daron Holloway on the field so far.
3rd and 5.
Looking for him on the sideline. I don't see him there either. 3rd down, out of the shotgun. Pellegrini, and he's hit immediately, and he'll be short of the 1st down. So Paulsboro unable to come up with the 1st down here, and likely will punt it away. I see Daron Holloway has his left leg outstretched on the bench.
How about that?
It looks like it may be a cramp.
Well, good stop there for Pensgrove.
So it's Paulsboro in punt formation. Tyreek King to punt it away. And this is one of his better kicks. It bounces at the 40 and will roll and be down at about the 34-yard line. 1st down and 10 for Pensgrove. And again, another case of no attempt to return the punt.
And that one was definitely a returnable punt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but it looked like the return man wanted no parts of it.
I don't recall ever doing a game where throughout the whole game they've never attempted to return a punt.
Just to me only indicates that you really don't want to return the punt. That's the only thing I can tell you. It's safe to just let it go.
Again, I understand that, but why not rush the punter then?
I agree.
6, 7.
First down and 10. It's Jason James again, your quarterback, with Ransom in the backfield. James, quick drop, outlet pass, swings it over, and pickup of maybe 2 to Tyreek Brown.
Again, if our viewers get a chance to watch that, great disciplined defense by Paulsboro, where all people get to stay at home. What we mean by that is the situation is they're each in their respective area that they're supposed to be.
Second down, we'll call it about 8 yards. Ball spotted at the 35-yard line. Pensgrove trailing 9-0 here in this third quarter. First round South Jersey Group 1. Ransom. And Ransom is cut down immediately. Absolutely nothing there. Not sure, kind of just shut it down right there when he had some.
There was nothing there. We've talked all day about push, and there hasn't been any change in that so far in half number 2. And Ransom just deciding that discretion was the better part of valor. Just get down.
As a offensive coordinator for this Pensgrove team, you have to be very frustrated at this point. This Paulsboro defense has held firm throughout the afternoon. Third down and 10. Here's Ransom setting up again in the backfield with time. James throws. It's knocked down by Google. Looking for Garrett, but James telegraphed the pass, and there is a penalty flag down in the area where we typically see holding.
And that's what it is. You're absolutely right, Rob. He telegraphed the pass because the corner actually got to be able to see where the ball was going, come over and almost make the interception. Yeah, and it's frustrating right now because everything you've tried so far has not been a positive. The only thing you could then hope is to get some kind of break somewhere along the line.
You know, as a coach, when you have so much frustration, just no success, do you say, listen, let's go back to basics, or do you pull that trick play out of your playbook?
Well, the answer is to go back to basics, but the problem is you have to be disciplined enough to do that, and that's not easy to do.
Punt is away. Google picks it up. Bad decision, but able to erase the mistake. And Google really trying to pick up a couple extra yards is just not worth the risk.
It sure is not. As a matter of fact, in most programs, that would be the last punt you'd be returning for the day. We do have a flag on the field, and it's going to be against Pensgrove.
Well, I'll be surprised if they have him kick it again. I mean, they typically have had some success with that low line drive kick, and you're better suited to kind of just continue, in my estimation.
And I agree with that 100%. You got the ball, you're ready to go. And I think that's going to be the decision. They're coming over to talk to Glenn Howard to see what he wants to do. And he has refused the penalty.
Need to play. And take over. Need to play, Harv. It'll be 1st and 10.
First and 10. Paulsboro.
5-yard.
At the 35.
Rob, what you said was interesting too, because as time goes along and your plays aren't working, the frustration builds.
Aiken hands it off inside. Big carry deep into the secondary, down the far sideline, and finally slung out of bounds. Paulsboro's Deron Holloway is back.
He shows right again. He missed the last series, but he's back. Just tremendous acceleration.
Well, you could see just the difference this Paulsboro offense has when they have the weapon of Holloway. 3 and out the previous series. First down and 10 for Holloway as now Paulsboro tries to put an exclamation point on that last run. Holloway slung down. He'll pick up about 2.
And also it's kind of interesting also to watch. If you're a Paulsboro person now, your offense moves. You're going to get some points somewhere along the line. And that's what Pensgrove doesn't have yet. They've been relying so much on their defense to step up.
Holloway comes out of the football game, and he'll be spelled by Dustin Herrera. Holloway looks like he is holding the back of his leg, which would suggest a hamstring, and Aiken is sacked. Great pressure by Pensgrove's number 52, Deshaun Seals, and he seals the deal. 3rd down and long now for Paulsboro. Holloway again getting assistance by the training staff. Aiken working out of the shotgun, fakes to Herrera, inside screen, has his man, still on his feet, finally cut down is Isaiah Pierce.
You're definitely down in 4-down offense, so Paulsboro will definitely not punt. They'll definitely continue the ball. But we see a difference, how much a difference is when Deron Holloway is in the game.
4th down and 6, Herrera in the backfield with Aiken. Again, keep an eye on Pellegrini. He is Aiken's top target. Aiken looks, now flushed out of the pocket. He's in trouble and he'll be sacked. He was trying to find Pellegrini, but just did not have the time.
Yes, absolutely correct. You called that exactly. And again, big step up with the Pensgrove defense. We have an official coming in. We might have a flag on the play.
And it's in the secondary.
Which could be defensive holding, which would be a 1st down for Paulsboro.
See what the call is. Unsportsmanlike conduct against Paulsboro.
So now that is after the completion of the play. It'll be a 15-yard penalty and a 1st down for Pensgrove.
So they will tack on an additional 15 yards, and Pensgrove again will have excellent field position.
Correct.
They've had great field position throughout the afternoon, and they've come up empty.
Correct. And that's when the game gets done, or the frustration builds, is the fact that you've had the opportunities to be successful. Again, they're going to start on their own 41-yard line. 2 1st downs, and they're moving.
All right, so Fred, you're the head coach. What are we doing here?
We're throwing the football.
Okay. 1st down and 10. James with Moore in the backfield. Play action pass, fakes the Ransom, throws it deep across the middle. And frankly, James fortunate because just threw into double coverage. And kind of forcing the football is not going to be the way to get out of this hole.
And not knowing their scheme at all, but it almost looks like the quarterback is just dropping back and throwing the ball and hoping that the receiver is going to run into that particular area, which is not a recipe for success.
And he seems to be repeatedly locked into one man.
Correct.
I don't know if they, if there are check downs or whether it's just we don't see it from up here.
That's correct.
Ransom in the backfield, gets the handoff. Ransom and evades one tackler, cannot evade the second. He will lose a yard as Tyreek King laid out the pain.
Each time they've tried to do that quick sweep to the outside, Paulsboro's just too quick in pursuit to get to the ball, and there really isn't any effort. Now, the one play that worked in the last drive right before half was a draw. So maybe you'll see them spread wide and try to set up a draw play to Ransom.
I don't think they've had a single 1st down today, Fred, via the run.
Via the run, I agree. Yeah, it's been the passes and maybe a penalty.
3rd down and 11. Moore coming out of the football game. I should clarify that is Samij Moore coming out of the football game. And again, out of the shotgun, it's James. James, quick drop, looks to dump, he does, inside screen, finds his man Brown, but nothing there. Maybe a gain of 3.
Yeah, they went right back to the screen to the short side of the field. Again, it's a nice play if you get your lineman out in front of you, but Paulsboro is very, very disciplined. They made the read. They got the people that were out there. I think they have to punt the football right here.
Well, it's been a defensive battle all afternoon. And again, it's going to be Pensgrove forced to punt it away. Both of these punters will sleep well tonight. On his way, it's high, and it will bounce and take a big bounce for Pensgrove, and it'll be knocked down at about the 8-yard line.
So this might be your hope, Rob, if Pensgrove can force a stand and get good field position. Haven't we said that before?
About a 42-yard punt. That's pretty good given the wind that they're dealing with. 2:39 remaining. First down and 10 for the Red Raiders. And Holloway still on the bench. Bright sun here on this windy afternoon. Aiken out of the shotgun. They'll hand it off and immediately met inside. Looked to be Pierce.
Yeah, great read by the linebackers inside. They were very obvious of what was going to happen in that situation, and a great form tackle. Big difference, though. Holloway still on the bench, and that takes an added threat away from Paulsboro.
Clock continues to run, approaching the 2-minute mark. Paulsboro working into the win. Aiken keeps, stretch it outside, and he'll dive forward and pick up maybe 2 more.
Again, good contain outside for Pensgrove right out. I think what basically Glenn will try to do in this situation, if he can, is try to do another running play, tell the running back to stay in bounds, run the clock down as far as they can possibly do so they can actually kick with the wind.
Holding against Paulsboro. We'll see whether Pensgrove takes this.
Again, it was a 2-yard gain and a down, but it looks like they're going to take the penalty, which will move it back to around the 4-yard line.
Second down. We'll call it 15 now after the holding penalty. You see Herrera and Aiken in the backfield looking for signals from the sideline. Four receiver set. Aiken, quarterback draw into the secondary. Aiken cuts it back inside. Ball comes loose. And it's Pensgrove.
Wow, first big turnover of the game for the Red Raiders.
So Pensgrove will take over at the 18-yard line. They've had great field position. We've said it time and time again all afternoon. This is their best yet.
And it's hard. We'll watch Aiken right here run the quarterback draw. He's really maneuvering out. He tries to get extra yards, and there comes the ball right out.
Again, we'll see whether or not Pensgrove tries to go to the end zone via the air. Jason James, your quarterback. He'll keep. James on his feet towards the end zone.
And it's a touchdown.
And actually, that looked like Brown who actually took the snap. Tyreek Brown.
Yeah, I think they gave him a good wildcat formation, just a straight sweep to the outside. He made that last dive into the end zone, and we have a different game right now.
Their biggest run of the day, 18 yards, results in their first touchdown, and Pensgrove will try to make it
Pensgrove
a one-point game. Interesting.
Yeah, they don't have a kicker, so they're definitely going to be going for 2.
They did attempt a
field goal. That's
field
right.
goal earlier.
Yeah. So I guess they're making that decision right now. That's true. But on the year, they've gone for 2 almost every time they've been out there. And they're going to kick.
So Tony Verdecchio on to attempt the point after. His kick is up, and it is no good. Well, that wasn't even close, Fred.
No, it's true. But the good news is now they're only 3 points behind. Any kind of break will take place. We may see Mr. Holloway back in the game.
Ironically, the long field goal attempt was closer than that extra point.
Yeah, here we get to see it again. Watch. This is a runner for Pensgrove picking up there. Just look, watch this effort at the end. Great job reaching out for the goal line. That was done by number 9, Tyreek Brown of Pensgrove. Great effort.
Well, we have ourselves a football game, 9-6 now. Still third quarter. Pensgrove able to kick with the wind.
Kick it deep. Try to make Paulsboro maneuver a long period of time. But Paulsboro will have the wind in quarter 4, which will help the passing game. And Mr. Holloway is running on the sideline, so I'm sure he'll be back.
You see one of the Paulsboro return men. That is Emmanuel Simon. And again, it will be Verdecchio to kick things off for Pensgrove.
Red Devils, number 32.
Inside of 90 seconds remaining, Paulsboro will probably keep it on the ground and maybe take the wind on third down if they're unable to convert. Verdecchio's kick is deep, and it will fall into the end zone. Paulsboro will take it first down and 10 from their own 20-yard line. Again, as you mentioned before, Fred, the offense is totally different complexion than Holloway's.
But Holloway's not there. I think what you said is exactly right. Go through 2 running plays to eat up as much time of the quarter as they can. Let it exchange, and then it opens up their fourth quarter offense.
And for Pensgrove, then you make the decision, do you call a timeout there?
Yeah, you hate to do that because you might need them at the end of the game.
Here we go! Let's go!
Paulsboro on their own 20. And now a whistle blows again. We got some issues.
It looks like all the officials are getting together here.
I think they're talking about an illegal substitution. We saw Moore running off the field before the snap, and they're going to wave it off.
Yeah, the rule on that is if they huddled, if they participated in the huddle.
Rarely do you have an illegal substitution to start a series.
Yes, absolutely correct.
So Aiken working out of the shotgun. He'll hand it off. No, he keeps. Aiken, and he is cut down for a big loss. The fake to Holloway was not effective as Aiken opted to keep it. And Aiken looks to be a little shaken. He is favoring his one leg.
Big opportunity here for Pensgrove.
Second down again, Aiken now. Will hand off to Holloway. Holloway cuts it outside, still on his feet. They'll pick up enough to get back to the original line of scrimmage. And we may have a penalty here. It looks like Paulsboro may be losing a little of their composure.
Which will be a little bit uncharacteristic of Paulsboro, but boy, that could be a big deal, especially if it's a dead ball foul, and it is. Personal foul, dead ball. So that will go back half the distance of the goal, and it'll be third down.
I don't know if it was that push from Holloway that drew the penalty flag.
And that's usually the case, and sometimes, as in all sports, that may have been a retaliatory action. The first one was missed, but they sure didn't miss the second one.
And it looked like he was just frustrated at the tackle made by the Pensgrove player, and he did it right in front of a referee, which is never a good idea.
Never a good idea.
So Paulsboro in a heap of problems right here.
Now the clock will be running, so they may just wait.
Holloway in the backfield with Aiken. Trips left for Paulsboro. 4 receiver set. Aiken, quick drop, throws inside and in and out of the hands of his intended receiver, Childress.
And now the best world for Pensgrove, because Paulsboro will have to punt against the wind.
They're going to take a shot with the wind.
And that penalty was a big factor.
It was a good pass, just in and out of the hands of Childress. I don't know that he would have had enough to get a first down, but at this point, any positive yards would have helped. Paulsboro backed up deep in their own end, and ironically here, a safety would not hurt them. Interesting to see if they opt just to take the safety. They do not. They punt it away. Low line drive. It bounces and finally down deep in Paulsboro territory. Looks like at the 35-yard line.
So the only change now will be the wind situation, that certainly gives Pensgrove great field position again.
Each team with 3 timeouts remaining, as you see on the graphic. 15 seconds left. And if you're Pensgrove, you probably go to the air here to utilize the wind.
Take a shot for the end zone right now.
Again, they ran out of the Wildcat previously, and they're going to do the same. Tyreek Brown will take the snap. Brown keeps, runs it. And not much there, maybe 1 or 2. And it looks like Pensgrove will be content to run out the clock here and head to the 4th quarter trailing by 3. From Paulsboro, the Red Raiders lead by 3 on your Atlantic City Electric Game of the Week. Welcome back to Paulsboro. We start the 4th quarter. Tyreek Brown again out of the Wildcat, staying on his feet, and the ball is loose. The ball is loose, and it looks like Paulsboro comes up with the turnover.
There we go, another one of the big turnover situations. Last time it went to into the hands of Pensgrove. Now Paulsboro gets it back. Looks like they're discussing to see whether his knee was down.
Paulsboro recovers first and 10 for you Raiders.
Well, from the replay, it was tough to see whether or not the knee was down or not. But
yeah, that sounds like the answer. It's possible he fell down on his back, and that would have still made him okay.
So Paulsboro with a big break to start this 4th quarter. 3 turnovers now for Pensgrove, and that has been their undoing. Paulsboro also turning the ball over once. The subsequent play, an 18-yard touchdown run for Pensgrove. Inside handoff, and again, we're going to have a penalty flag. This may be a late hit.
And that's where you always worry, Rob, about frustration after a mistake is made. It looks to me that's what it's going to be.
They got to cut this out, man. We walk all the way down there. You know?
Yeah, it's going to be a blow to the head.
My knee is swiveling bad, man. I got bad knee now, man.
That's a tough call, as Holloway is such a powerful runner. His second efforts almost compel you to continue to hit him.
It's the hardest thing in the world is to stop. That's exactly right.
Nonetheless, Paulsboro will benefit, and they will find themselves in excellent field position now. First down and 10, and this game has turned quickly. Aitken out of the shotgun, gives to Holloway. Holloway into the secondary, cuts it across the grain. Holloway on his way. Holloway struck down, but not before picking up a big chunk. And again, we're going to have another holding penalty.
Flag on the play.
Wow, what a great explosion there by Holloway, but it looks like all for naught as it's going to be brought back, because that's definitely a holding situation.
It looked like it was somewhere downfield, so it won't hurt them quite as much, but nonetheless a big play called back.
Right again, Rob, it's 10 yards from the spot of the foul, and you get to repeat the down.
So it'll be first down and about 11.
First and 12. From Paulsboro, 44.
Well, we've said it before, you get a sense of two different teams, with and without Holloway.
Absolutely. So much more explosiveness.
Three receiver set. Aitken again out of the shotgun, and he fumbles the football. Eludes one tackler and wisely goes down. That's a smart play.
That was a smart play. Nothing good was going to come of that play. The best thing to do is get down, keep the ball, regroup, and run another one.
Pensgrove's defense has been impressive today.
I'll tell you, they really have. And Coach Emmel said that at the beginning. He thought that he would take his group of people up front and do whatever they can. They've done that so far. They just need the offense to come along.
Second down and 17 now for Paulsboro. Again, a three receiver set for Aitken with Holloway in the backfield. He'll keep right up the middle, and he's pounded. Big hit laid out by Jerron Maldonado.
Big situation now for the Raiders. It's third and long. You basically want to go X number of yards and then punt the football.
Again, Paulsboro with a 3-point lead. Clock moving. 10:24 and counting. Aitken looking for the offensive play call. Holloway in the backfield. He has been the primary weapon for this Paulsboro offense. Four receiver set, trips right. Aitken, three-step drop, has time across the middle, has his man, and the ball just sails on him. Alan Childress had a step on the defensive back, but in fairness to Aitken, it is not easy to throw the football today.
Absolutely correct, and it's a great maneuver, but again, if you're a Pensgrove person, great stop, even after the penalty.
Well, that holding call comes back to bite Paulsboro, and they are now forced to punt it away. Well, now we have two guys back to return the punt. This will be interesting after not attempting to return it at all. So we'll see whether or not there's a change in game plan here, essentially, for Pensgrove. Now Tariq Robinson creeps up a little bit. Low line drive. It bounces, and it's taken on one hop. Here's a big return. And still on his feet, cutting back inside. Has room and finally brought down. A fine return there as Pensgrove. Kymir Brown.
And very much interesting because they haven't returned a punt all day. They did that. It was an outstanding return. And here we go again. Pensgrove now only 3 points down.
And there's a flag deep in Pensgrove territory. But it looks like it may have just fallen out of someone's pocket, as there's no indication a penalty was called. First down and 10. Pensgrove. Maybe with a change in momentum here. And again, they're going to continue to run the Wildcat. Brown throws it up, and ill-advised pass, a jump ball with 5 Paulsboro Red Raiders almost looking at one another as to who was going to catch the ball.
Absolutely. It was a good old tight end release and come straight down the center of the field. Again, one receiver only that was sent out. Here it is again. You'll get to see it. Wow. There they are. There's our 4 defenders saying we should have had the ball.
2nd down and 10. Brown again working out of the shotgun. Brown will keep. And Brown will be cut down.
It's going to set up an interesting call for Pensgrove because you're not going to get much distance on the punt when you punt against the wind this way. So we'll see if they actually do 4-down offense.
And it looks like they're going to keep Brown in at quarterback as opposed to going back to Jason James. Pensgrove setting their offense, 3rd down and 10. Brown back to pass, and he's going to throw it up for grabs, and this is going to fall incomplete. He just tried to throw it up and allow Kymir Brown to run underneath it.
We have a flag on the field.
And that's going to be a hold against Pensgrove. You would suspect that they will decline the penalty.
I'll tell you what, though, he really threw that ball well.
Well, when you have a weapon like Kymir Brown, that's not a bad option. Just throw it up and see if he can get underneath it.
Absolutely. Anything can happen in high school football. I think Pensgrove has to punt the football here. And that's what they're going to do.
Another punt here, Fred.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not going to go far.
Deja vu all over again. Low line drive, it bounces, and again, it'll take a positive roll for Pensgrove and be downed at about the 27-yard line.
So with 8:30 to go, some coaches would like to say, let's control the ball for 6 minutes, even if we don't score. Pensgrove won't have a chance to come back. Paulsboro's philosophy would be another score might end the game anyway, so run your offense.
At this point, it's been the turnovers that have resulted in scoring, so
Correct.
You have to think as long as you don't turn the ball over, you're going to be in good shape.
Exactly. I agree with that.
We'll see how conservative Paulsboro is here, getting the calls from the sideline. Aiken again with Holloway in the backfield. 3 receiver set, Google split wide right. Holloway with the handoff. And Holloway will go maybe 2 yards, and that's about it.
And I think Glenn Howard is thinking the same thing we're thinking, that if you can control the football, run some time off the clock, it really limits the options of Pensgrove.
Usually it's the high-scoring games that are exceptionally long. This has been a very long football game, and we've had 15 points combined.
It's really interesting. So you never really know about a football game.
Again, a 3-receiver set for Aiken with Holloway in the backfield. And it's Holloway. Holloway dances. And again, this Pensgrove defense has been outstanding.
They've really attacked the ball so much better in the second half. But now it sets up an interesting situation, Rob. It's 3rd and 5. First down runs 2 minutes more off the clock. Do you pass or do you run?
3rd down and 5. Aiken again with Holloway. Anytime you have Holloway in your backfield, you have a viable weapon. Keep your eyes on Pellegrini again here if they opt to go to throw the football. Here's Aiken. He'll roll to his right. Aiken keeps. Aiken now, and he will have enough for the first down.
Great individual effort there by Aiken. Took off, was a run-pass option to Pellegrini, as you once said. He saw the green in front of him and dove for the first down. First down, Raiders, 2 minutes more coming off the clock.
You know, we talk a little bit about the Pennsgrove defense. We mentioned just the penetration they've had, but their secondary has done a solid job as well.
Yeah, they're a very good defensive football team.
First and 10, and as you mentioned, the ability to run off a couple more minutes of this clock. Aiken hands it off, Holloway. And again, we're going to have another holding penalty here.
And the Paulsboro faithful's not very, very happy. But it sure looks like a holding call here. Calls made by the umpire, which usually has a great view of the interior play.
Well, both of these teams have essentially been their own worst enemies. It's going to be the team that does not shoot itself in the foot in the last quarter that wins, most likely.
Great situation. That's exactly right. And shooting yourself in the foot is a great analogy.
So first down, and it looks to be about 19. Again, working out of the shotgun, 3 receiver set for Aiken. Holloway. Aiken keeps. Aiken cuts it outside and now works to find a seam. Maybe a gain of 2 or 3. Long second down. Clock continues to run. And still a lot of football to be played here.
But that's the key. The clock continues to run, and that's what is the enemy of Pennsgrove right now and the dear friend of Paulsboro. As that clock is moving, we're down now to 5.5 minutes to play.
We have a Pennsgrove player that just went down. So that will change things. As it looked like Paulsboro was having a tough time getting the play from the sideline. They were going to be in danger of too much time, but instead it looked like one of the Pennsgrove players just went down in a heap.
Yeah, that's legitimate. I saw Glenn Howard making the call to come in, and he looked like he was trying to use as much of the 25-second clock as he could. Now what happens is we'll have the injury timeout, which won't be charged to anyone, but the clock will run. Here's our schedule. If you take a look at the situation in here.
It's Paulsboro.
That's the Paulsboro. You can follow along with them. Look at the amount of points that they have scored in each game, with the exception of the Haddonfield game, which was their only loss. They got 14 points. So this is the least amount they've scored all year. That's some pretty good competition. 35 against Woodbury, 40 some points against Sterling, who's really good. Look at the score against Collingswood. That's also a playoff team. They're playing Cedar Creek today. Paulsboro just a dynamite on offense.
Well, Paulsboro, again, that first game, I believe, was not against Kingsway on the graphic, but they have been just outstanding offensively, and that just shows you how good this Pennsgrove defense has been today. Aiken hands it off. It's Holloway, and Holloway is slung down. Big hit laid out by Daquan Robinson.
And now going to force the Raiders into a very difficult situation here, and could give Pennsgrove a good field position, but it's still third down.
So timeout called by Pennsgrove.
Yeah, there'll just be a situation now where Glenn wants to regroup everybody, just get them back on the same page. That was a great hit.
So they opt to use that timeout relatively early. Now, some might argue that...
We got the new graphic that's up on the situation. This is for Pennsgrove. Shows you them. They had big scores against Gloucester Catholic, but most of their games are in the teens, 18, 16, 14, with the exception of Camden scoring 27 points and Salem scoring 22 points. You can see how good their defense has been all year.
Yeah, again, we talked about this before, just coming in against Camden, an excellent football team, but Glassboro, maybe a team that they were expected to beat, and you just wondered whether or not they were going to be a team that did not know its identity anymore. But they've come into this game, and, you know, it started off auspiciously enough with a kickoff that turned into an onside kick, excellent field position that they could do nothing with, and they've had great field position coupled with great defense. It's typically a recipe for success, but their offense has just sputtered throughout the day.
Just sputtered, and they've tried every possible option that they could think of with very limited success, with the only score coming after that turnover and the 18-yard Wildcat run.
So a long third down now for Aiken and Paulsboro, and it's Holloway, and Holloway is met immediately. Again, Daquan Robinson putting his stamp on this football game.
So what we have now is exactly what Pennsgrove would hope to be. They're going to have the football within the last 4 minutes of the game with a chance to win the game.
Well, we saw that they opted to actually return a punt, and it worked out well. So now they have both Tariq Robinson and Kymere Brown. We haven't seen a whole lot of Brown today other than one reception and that one return, but it was a big return. They have illustrated that they are dangerous as return men. King to punt it away. King's punt is a line drive, and it bounces, and it will find its way out of bounds. I tell you what, that Kymere Brown was playing as if it was Ray Guy punting. I mean, it would have been about a 60-yard punt.
And you can also look on the situation, whether it was called or not. It was a great angle sideline punt, which is going to stop any return. But here's what you got. If you're Pennsgrove, you've got the football. You've got a chance to win the football game, but you got to move the football.
Here you see a great shot of our view from Paulsboro High School. The Red Raiders on top 9-6, trying to continue their tradition of playoff success here in the first round of South Jersey Group 1. 3 minutes and 52 seconds remaining in this football game.
52 seconds remaining.
So they opt to go back to Jason James at quarterback. And a little sweep. It's Kymere Brown. We talked about just how dangerous he is as a weapon. And Brown picks up about 4 yards. That's one of the bigger gains on the ground for Pennsgrove today.
And that is correct. And they're just trying to get a little momentum. You've said this enough times. In order to pass the ball successfully, you have to be able to have run the ball successfully so that everybody doesn't drop. You can see the numbers there on Kymere Brown. He just definitely is a big-time player.
I'm a little surprised they didn't try to do more of that with Kymere Brown. You take a look at the team like the St. Louis Rams, where they have someone dynamic like Devon Austin. They're going to run the football with a wide receiver. That's the first time we've seen that with Kymere Brown.
That's really a very good statement.
Second down. Fake throw. Has his man. First down. It looks like he'll have enough.
Well, there's your first morale booster. It looks like you've got the first down. You're almost getting into Paulsboro territory, and it is a first down.
So Tyreek Brown on the reception, big first down, and Pennsgrove moving that football incrementally. 3:37 left. First down and 10.
3:36 left in the game.
James again working out of the shotgun. They'll hand it off to Ransom. Ransom with some room. Ransom, and he'll pick up about 4 or 5 before he is ultimately stopped. And you see a little bit more of that push you talked about from the Pennsgrove line.
And again, fatigue starts to come in the fourth quarter. The key now is you're definitely not going to punt the football no matter where you are on the field, because you're never going to get the ball back again. So run plays in here aren't bad. They just use up some time.
Clock continues to move as we approach the 3-minute mark. Second down. Two receivers set for James. James fakes the handoff, gets pressure on the backside. He's cut down.
Brought down in the backfield.
Great job by the defensive end.
Well, Quarles able to track down James, and that's a big defensive stop. Third down and 9 after the sack. And for a crowd that has not had a lot to cheer about, they are up on their feet, urging their team on.
This and the next play will decide the football game.
James now lined up under center. Deep drop. James throws, and it is picked off. Picked off. Still on his feet, angling towards the end zone. On his way. Touchdown, Alan Childress.
There's our big play that decides this football game. Great interception by Childress. He waited perfectly for the ball and then took it to the house.
Wow, that was just not a good pass, Fred. Childress just simply had to wait for the ball to come down, thrown directly to him.
It's almost like a desperation at that particular time.
You could see there were only 2 people that could have possibly caught it, and they were both wearing the wrong uniform.
That's correct.
You see Childress all the way back and a clear lane. This is a day that Childress will remember as he delivers the knockout blow to Pensgrove.
And you are correct. The ball was basically just thrown to a spot in a location, but there was no wide receiver that was there.
So Kelsey will come on to attempt the point after and extend this Paulsboro lead. It is 15-6, and now some confusion.
I think they were thinking for a while a 2-point conversion would make it a 3-score game. A single conversion makes it a 1-score game.
Kelsey's kick is up, and it is no good.
Yeah, it would make it a 2-score game, at that particular point. So it's going to be 15-6, but that's the magic 9 points. And it's going to take 2 scores for Pensgrove to win, so they got to score immediately.
Well, this crowd has been quiet throughout the afternoon. It's not been a particularly pretty football game unless you love defense and punting. But outside of that, there's not been much to cheer, but now this crowd has erupted after the Childress touchdown return. Next week, our Atlantic City Electric Game of the Week, which will air on November 24th and the 26th at noon and 8 p.m. will be a good one. Buna at West Deptford. West Deptford has really been one of the better football programs in South Jersey the last decade or so, and Buna is a team that typically flies underneath everybody's radar, but that's a tough group of kids.
Yeah, Clyde Folsom got his 200th win this year, which is an incredible amount for just an excellent coach. And Buna just always plays good football. They beat Cinnaminson last night, 28-7. Cinnaminson was 7-1 and just beaten undefeated Pemberton. So they're a good football team. That'll be a great football game.
Kelsey will kick it off for Paulsboro as they hope to finish this off and head to Pennsville next week. Short kick taken on a line drive. And will be returned to about the 35 or so. First down and 10 for Pensgrove, and they have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, they do. It's really desperation time. And you know, as a coach, you used to always worry about this time if the game is almost decided, whether somebody would do a cheap shot or somebody would do something unsportsmanlike that would hurt you the following week. So sure, Glenn just wants to get this game over with. Pensgrove wants to at least try to get another score.
Go to next Friday night, South Jersey semifinal.
Well, it looks like they're going to opt for Brown to be the quarterback here and what may be their last drive of the afternoon.
5:45.
Brown scored the only touchdown. Brown. And he's going to throw long and deep, and it's going to be picked off. Well, we saw that in the first half. 2 consecutive plays with 2 turnovers, and history repeats itself.
Left in the game, Paulsboro 15, Pedro 6. Once again.
So the the interception by A.J. Google should put an end to any hopes of Pensgrove coming back in this one. Paulsboro will have the ability to...
It'll be interesting to see. Pensgrove still has 3 timeouts left, so they could take each one of those 3. 2 timeouts left. That's correct. 2 timeouts. So they can only stop the clock twice. So go to victory formation and the game ends.
Group 1 semifinal next Friday night.
Well, it would take they ought to call it a miracle formation because you're trailing by 2 scores here. At this point, it would take a miracle for them to come back and win the game. But, you know, we'll see. You can't argue if Pensgrove wants to continue to play the game out. We've seen a lot of strange things happen in football.
That's for sure.
The one thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the one thing you're not going to see is the ball in the air.
Well, I was going to say that when I think of strange turnarounds and miracle comebacks, I always think of Joe Pisarcik.
The miracle at the Meadowlands, that's for sure.
Of course, we saw that as well. I believe it was Deshaun Jackson returning that punt.
Yeah, same way when all you had to do was kick the ball out of bounds.
Yeah, against the Giants again.
We have a penalty called up against Pensgrove.
First and 5 for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, it looks like a substitution penalty.
So 1st down and 5 for Aiken and Paulsboro. And they'll hand it off to Holloway. Holloway. Maybe a gain of 1.
You tell your back right now, put both hands on the football and don't be afraid to go down because you don't want to fumble. Pensgrove is going to use their 2 timeouts.
Well, Paulsboro has the luxury of looking ahead now to Pennsville. Thoughts on that?
Well, if we're talking about pure athletes, Paulsboro has a big advantage on pure athletes. Pennsville's also more of a offense like Paulsboro. They run no huddle. They do like to maneuver the ball. So might be the opposite of this game and be like a 40-30 score if neither defense can step up. But give me athletes anytime. Right now, I think Pennsville probably doesn't have a player equal to Deron Holloway, and that could make a difference. The game is at Pennsville.
When it's all said and done, who do you like in that game?
Paulsboro. I like Paulsboro on tradition, and I think I like Paulsboro on the fact that Glenn Howard will break down Pennsville and know exactly what to do with them defensively.
If they do win that game, is Paulsboro then go on and take South Jersey Group 1?
Yeah, when I looked at the standings, the team I wasn't so sure on is what Salem would be like, but I think the best team in the playoffs right now is going to be the Red Raiders.
Aiken again out of the shotgun. He'll hand it off to Holloway. Holloway just looking for anything. Another holding penalty here. And finally, a tackle made. And now another late flag, so those will cancel each other out.
And that's what you hate to see.
The game will not end any prettier than the vast majority of it.
Correct.
But, you know, again, when I say the game wasn't a pretty game, I guess that's really not a fair assessment because you had 2 defenses that really ensured that we typically think that pretty game is an offensive-driven game. But, you know, who's to say that that is what should dictate whether a game is pretty or not. This Pensgrove and Paulsboro defense both deserve a tremendous amount of credit.
They do, and I tell you what, that's a very good example because we said enough times how explosive Paulsboro is, and to hold them to 15 points, and really offensively, they held them to 1 touchdown.
That's correct.
So
and that came after a turnover as well.
Yes. So in the long run, I think Pensgrove deserves a lot of credit.
So those penalties will cancel one another out.
One thing I always also admired about Paulsboro is they have the ability to win in any kind of a game. Mm-hmm. They can win if it's driving rain.
Yep.
They can win if their passing game is off.
Yep.
And that's
offense,
a good credit.
defense, special teams. You know, one of the things that I'm always amazed at here at Paulsboro is that their special teams play is always exceptional, and not just their returnment, but they typically have a very good kicking game. And at a Group 1 school, that is a rarity.
Yeah, that's really true, and that's a credit to the program. We just saw something very interesting in the field. There were 2 penalties. One was a live ball, one was a dead ball. They had to mark off both penalties. So they went back 10 yards one way and then up 15 yards the next way. So the whole result is?
I think about 4 inches.
Yeah, I think you're right. Gotcha.
Second down, and again, we're still getting calls from the sideline. Clock continues to move inside of 1 minute. Out of the shotgun, it's Aitken. Aitken hands it off. Here's Holloway. Holloway looking for space. Holloway now, and Kamir Brown tackles the football. He's cut down, and the clock continues to move.
Clock is moving. 39 seconds.
Another timeout here called by Pensgrove. That's their final timeout. Their only hope here would be that they can stop this last play coming up for Pensgrove and force them to punt and expect, like you said, a miracle, an onside kick, another miracle, and win the game.
Well, there you get a chance to see some of the Paulsboro band having a good time, singing to and dancing to the Village People. That was a big band in your day, wasn't it?
Yeah, there we go. It's back to disco fever.
Which of the Village People were your favorite?
Oh, none.
Well, there you have it.
I will make no further comments.
All right, fair enough.
But the situation now that you were talking about next week, again, the situation.
It's a good segue.
Yeah, I did like that one. That was a pretty good deal. Was the Pennsville has the challenge for them would be the fact that they can move the ball and they can run the football. The plus is the better athletes are going to be on the side of Paulsboro. So it'll be very interesting to see what transpires. Both coaches, Ryan Wood and Glenn Howard, will do their homework during the week and have everything set and ready to go.
Ryan Wood has done an excellent job with the football program at Pennsville. Of course, he had tremendous success as the baseball coach.
He was outstanding at that, and I tell you what, there's been so many good baseball teams come out of Pennsville.
And Paulsboro takes a knee on the snap. I'm not sure. We had a lot of people standing around. I'm not sure what's going on exactly. It looks like they're going to be marked off for a penalty here. So.
Basically, they just took that play, and now they realize there's only enough time left. There's not a time left that you need to run another play, so that's going to be the game.
So Paulsboro comes away victorious 15-6 in the first round of the South Jersey Group 1 playoffs. Go Big Red. There you see it. This is a program that continues to impress each and every year under Glenn Howard. What are your thoughts, Fred?
Well, they're the defending sectional champion. They know how to win. But to be honest with you, Rob, it wasn't the game I expected.
No.
At any part, I thought we might have a lot of scoring, or Paulsboro might be able to put at least 30 points on the board. So we'll credit both teams for playing very, very good defense. All that matters at the end of the day, one team has more than the other, Paulsboro goes on.
If you look at the score, maybe you say, hey, Paulsboro suffered a letdown, but Pensgrove had a tremendous defensive effort, and it was defense that ended up being the difference, as both teams really capitalizing on defensive or mistakes and great plays by their defense. The final score, Paulsboro victorious 15-9 over Pensgrove. There you see your Atlantic City Electric game of the week next week. It's going to be Buna and West Effort. It'll be a good one. Make sure you tune in for that. For my partner, Fred Schwartz, my director, Stan Ritter, and all of the gang, I'm Rob Chris. Thanks for joining us again. Your final score, Paulsboro advances in South Jersey Group 1, 15-6 over Pensgrove.